Back with another reaction right here on ABP Reactions, man. And right now, we going to get caught up with what's the latest with this Nolan Wells case. They saying new GPS data that came out, new audio, all kind of stuff, man. Let's get caught up. Let's see what they got, man.
There will be a grand jury that she will turn this case over to once they have collected all the information.
The investigation into the death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells is picking up speed as it's now being reported this case may be headed to a grand jury, just as newly released GPS data and dispatch audio are raising new questions about what happened in Nolan's final hours. We're going to break it all down and what this could mean right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, so we have to talk about a huge new phase that we're now entering in the investigation into the death of Nolan Wells. If you recall, 18-year-old college football player disappeared while out boating with friends on the July 4th weekend. They were going to Horn Island. This is off the Mississippi Gulf Coast. His body was found nearby 2 days after he vanished. Now, the family has met with the district attorney. And this investigation, it is now being reported, may be headed to a grand jury. If that is true, we are one step closer to possibly finding out who, if anyone, is responsible for Nolan's death, or whether anyone committed any crimes in connection with this investigation. And to be clear, I'm not saying that's the case, but when you hear the reports that this may be going to a grand jury, that's what you have to be thinking, right? Because when you think of a grand jury and potential crimes, it could mean a whole host of things. But let's not forget, there is still a lot of mystery that needs to be solved here. Key pieces of the timeline seem to be still being debated. Some of the most important evidence hasn't been fully analyzed yet. And we also, and maybe most importantly, we still do not know Nolan's official cause of death. We don't know when the results of the family's independent autopsy is going to be released. Last week, we were hoping to have that update for you on July 10th when the family's attorney, Ben Crump, said he'd initially expected to have the preliminary findings, but for now, we're still in the dark on them. Crump has said that flight cancellations are causing transport issues in getting Nolan's body to D.C. for that examination. And at the same time, there is no autopsy results that have been released as part of the official state investigation either. At last check, the toxicology reports are still pending.
Okay, so it's still not out. And that's very vital to this. That autopsy is going to explain and tell a lot, and they still haven't got it. That's very crucial information that they need ASAP.
To be clear, by the way, last week, Jackson County Sheriff John Ledbetter indicated there is no reason to suspect foul play. We have no reason to believe that that conclusion or belief has changed. But as we know, investigations do develop, they evolve, and yes, we are learning some things. But here is another big update that we got to talk about. We have learned from Ben Crump, again, the family's attorney, that Nolan's phone will undergo a, quote, mutual inspection, meaning both the state investigators and the family's own experts are going to analyze the phone. So that could potentially be a game changer here. It does raise questions about how this would work. It does raise questions about how the evidence is being processed. Does it contaminate the evidence in any way? How do you have this dual investigation? And I mean, the family reportedly believes that data may have been deleted from that phone. So that raises an interesting question, as well as why Nolan didn't have his phone. We've talked about that before. You're going into the water. Maybe you wouldn't have your phone. Maybe you leave it on board. But then again, if he was planning to go out and hang out with this girl, as the reports have been, why wouldn't he have taken his phone? So some interesting questions there. And we should also point out that the phone is currently in the hands of Crump's independent investigators. That's what the reporting suggests. And by the way, the family recovered Nolan's phone using the Life 360 app, and they have apparently had it since. And then we have this. This is big too. This is a big update. New details are emerging about the timeline surrounding Nolan's death. What do I mean? NBC News has obtained audio of what seems to be Nolan's friends calling for help when that boat that he was in trouble. Listen to this.
We're sinking. Can y'all please come?
And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's on board.
So from that little bit, and reporting by outlets like NBC News and the New York Post, it seems that boat likely had 7 people on board. The boat was having trouble at around 4 p.m. The boat operator reportedly said hey, we're at the west tip of Horn and our bilge pump stopped working. I want to get this boat unsank and towed back. That boat was reportedly towed for 3 miles. It picked up speed less than an hour later. We're actually going to talk about that a little bit more. And look, we also know from the Jackson County Sheriff, again, John Ledbetter, that Nolan did not come back on that boat. We don't know for certain if Nolan was on that boat during the call or if he was already off the boat at that point. But look, as far as we can tell, what we seem to know is that at some point between that call and 4:31 p.m., when the boat left, it seems Nolan was no longer with them. So what happened in that window?
And how the fuck they don't know shit with all these goddamn people? That's the one thing I don't get. Like, all these goddamn people that was there, as far as friend group, as far as people on the island, it ain't nobody that can confirm he was still on the island after this time that his friends said they left. Out of all them people on that goddamn island, this is the only black kid that will be walking around on that damn island. There's nobody saying, hey, yeah, I saw that kid. I saw him. Like, I don't get it. Like, what the fuck? And then out of all the friends that was there, you're saying all of them got the same consistent story? Nobody has came forward and was like, hey, they're lying? That's rare. You know what I'm saying? Usually if motherfuckers lying and covering up, somebody eventually hey, I got a secret. One of them was lying, or one of them told me this, or I recorded him saying this, or he confessed this to me. Like, you know what I mean? But what's y'all thoughts? What are y'all thoughts on this, man? Do y'all think it is what they are saying happened? He stayed behind, they don't know what happened, and he ended up dying? Or do y'all think this is a cover-up? Because at this point, it's like we need something to break through. We need like something solid, something strong. Because right now it's he say, she say, assumptions. Where is the hard evidence?
There's also newly released information regarding GPS data tracking the boat's movements that day. So these little missing pieces of the timeline are starting to come together. We're going to talk about what the GPS data seems to show. This is all trying to go to answer the questions that the family has, right? That's all that matters. Can you answer the questions that the family has? Now, we're going to get into it all. I actually want to start with what we learned at this press conference about this grand jury. So Ben Crump announced that the family met with Jackson County District Attorney Angel Myers McGrath, and arguably the biggest takeaway from that meeting came directly from Crump.
She shared with the family that there will be a grand jury that she will turn this case over to once they have collected all the information and finished their investigation. We also agreed that we will have a mutual inspection of the cell phone with our experts and their experts. Attorney Eric Hertz is helping lead the investigation team with former law enforcement experts who are going to help us with the cell phone download. So everybody will be able to see at the same time what the cell phone has. We also talked about trying to make sure we dot every I and cross every T. I know that we're getting about 50 calls a day to 100 calls a day from people who were there on Horn Island, people who are familiar with individuals that were there on Horn Island.
There we go. Now, what are they saying? I'm like, it got to be people calling. It's always somebody. When it's this many people at a beach, it's going to be people calling, nosy motherfuckers, people who think they know, you know what I mean? It's always somebody's calling. So what are they saying is what I'm interested in. Are they saying, hey, they're not lying? Hey, they are lying? What are you getting more of?
And so we continue to be steadfast in trying to get to the truth of why Nolan Wells is dead.
Now, I got to be clear about something. This grand jury doesn't mean that they're charging someone, but it does seem to mean that the DA could present the evidence to a group that will decide whether charges should be brought. And that also becomes a question whether the DA would actually move forward with that. Look, as we previously discussed in this case, there's been a lot of misinformation that has been spreading online. You know, in our last episode, we addressed this viral video that has been circulating, the one that was initially believed to show Nolan in some sort of argument over his phone. But a friend of Nolan's later came forward to the media and said it wasn't Nolan in the video. It was him. He had this argument. And Ben Crump acknowledged that they're getting conflicting accounts.
That's what a witness told us, and that's what we reported out. Then another witness had come forward and said, no, that was his voice. We have other witnesses who said there were other altercations. So as Mr. Hurt said, we're trying to go through it all and so forth. And we'll be even more careful to say, this is what a witness told us in the future.
And so your team hasn't been able to look fully into that and confirm whether it was or was not Nolan that said
No,
that?
we have audio people doing it, but we know certain people said it was him, and then certain people said it was not him.
So yeah, conflict.
Hold on, Ben Crump. Why is your hand on my woman, bro? Hold on, nigga. Move your hand off my woman. Hey, shout out to Pops. But I'll be like, hold on, what the fuck are you doing, OG? You just our attorney, my nigga. I don't need you doing all that holding hands while I'm holding my wife's hand. Listen, homie, who going for this shit? Listen, why are you holding her hand like that?
Witness accounts. Police are still searching for any images or videos unedited that could provide insight into what happened that day. And the family, again, is still waiting for answers while planning their son's funeral. Nolan's mother, Christine Wansley, spoke about what the family has been going through.
Thank you so much. Just the outpouring of love, support. We've had some local officials, Mayor Casey Vaughn from Gaucher has reached out to us. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. He has, it's almost been every day. He's been texting to check on us. Also, Jeffrey Hullum, thank you so much. He's been texting pretty much every day, receiving a lot of stories from Nolan's teachers, which just warms my heart, his classmates, teammates.
So to help make sense of everything that we've been talking about, I want to bring in Tyler Bailey, criminal defense attorney, civil rights attorney. So good to see you. Thanks for taking the time. I think this is the first you and I have talked about this case. And I want to start with arguably the biggest legal update, the grand jury. This idea that, according to Ben Crump, right, that this may go to a grand jury once the investigation by the sheriff's office is complete. What do you think that would look like? I mean, what could the grand jury potentially be looking at here? What kind of evidence, what potential charges?
Well, ideally, they should look at all relevant evidence here that could lead them to make a conclusion whether they believe there's enough probable cause for criminal charges or not, and not be a grand jury that's spoon-fed particular information. And I think that's a big update because initially we know that the sheriff announced, I believe about a week ago, that they suspected no foul play. I do think this independent investigation, some of the pressure has allowed the DA to come to a different conclusion where there seems to be a joint agreement that this is going to go to a grand jury. So it could be text messages. It could be the lack of text messages. It could be cell phone data. It could be statements from different witnesses who could testify.
In other words, you're saying anybody looks at that and looks at a headline like, oh my gosh, you're talking homicide charges, but not necessarily. It could be something with respect to the investigation, like whether it's tampering with evidence or misleading police, something. I'm not saying those things happen, but that's what you're suggesting.
Right. It's anything that's a criminal charge pertaining to the disappearance and the death of this young man here could be a criminal charge. It could be obstruction of justice. All right. You could have some accessories after the fact. We don't know if it's going to be homicide or murder, but there could be some criminal charge that could come out of this. And I think that's all the family has been asking for, is a fair investigation so they can know the truth.
Going to the idea of a homicide charge, look, it's difficult for me to say anything about this because we don't have a lot of information. We don't have the cause of death, but we also have the reality that if someone is found in the water in that way, it may be difficult to know whether there was blunt force trauma. It may be difficult to know whether somebody was thrown into the water or was drowned, right? I mean, those can be difficult for medical examiners to ultimately assess. What are potential...
Well, you better find some good ones then, motherfucker. What the fuck? Y'all better figure this shit out. All this goddamn light y'all got on this case. We need some goddamn answers, man. Don't sit here and try to, yeah, we ain't gonna be able to read if it was blunt force trauma because he was in the water too long. Y'all should have said that from the fucking get-go. Because that's what we waiting to see. So now you're saying it's gonna be hard to tell because he was in the water? So what the fuck is gonna happen then, man? Like, if y'all don't figure that out, then what's next? What are we going off of? Because God damn it, we're gonna need some answers on this one. I would hate for y'all to be wrong and what these white kids are saying is really what happened. Because nigga, god damn, this case is getting so much light. Y'all better be right. Or at least some funny business. Something funny had to happen. Y'all better figure that shit out and give us that information ASAP.
Homicide charges here. Is there a theory of a case where if they can't prove that someone killed Nolan, but that was negligent in some way, what are some potential theories that you could see a homicide-related charge with what happened to Nolan? And again, I know we're speculating here, but I'm just trying to understand what we could maybe see: manslaughter, negligent homicide, murder. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, there's so much still we don't know, but we do know there was some statements about there being an argument, whether that was Nolan in the argument or somebody else. So we don't know if there was some sort of altercation or fight. There was no interrogations of by law enforcement of the individuals who were with him the day afterwards. Right? There's been none of that we know of that law enforcement has questioned any of these people who were out there on this boat at the island with Nolan Wells. So we don't know what happened, whether it was an argument, whether it was a fight, whether they knew that he was in a position where he could not swim and fend for himself in the water. So all that is stuff that we don't know. And hopefully from this independent investigation and hopefully from the Sheriff's Department and DA to get some more information that could lead them to come to a definitive conclusion.
And to be clear, when we say we don't know, right, like there's been reporting and there's been one narrative put forward by people who were involved in this about speaking with law enforcement, but it's not like we got an official report or a presser saying these people X, Y, and Z were interviewed. This is what they said. They're not suspects. We're kind of reading between the lines a little bit. I just want to take a step back. Is it significant that the DA met with the family or the DA met with the family's lawyer? Is that common? Does that signify to you something? I mean, we're kind of jumping here and saying it's possible that evidence could be presented to a grand jury, but it could very well not be presented to a grand jury. I'm curious, how significant is it that the DA reportedly met with the family?
This DA said that she commonly meets with families who have lost loved ones. That's one thing that she did say. But out of this, where you have a sheriff that said there's no foul play initially, and then you have the family demand an independent investigation, and then you have a meeting between the family and along with the family's lawyer, that is very significant. I think that shows that the public pressure and the national attention to this area of Mississippi has made the DA change some of the way she's addressing this by meeting with the victim's family and even coming to the extent of doing some joint things together with the victim's family and their attorney. That's not common in situations like this.
What would it say to you if they don't impanel a grand jury, if they don't present evidence to a grand jury, or they do present evidence to a grand jury and the grand jury chooses not to indict? A, two parts of that. What would that signal to you? And B, would we know about any of that?
Grand jury proceedings are secretive. So there will be, for example, no media coverage of the grand jury. There's no defense lawyers are not allowed to be there. The victim's family attorney, Ben Crump, won't be able to be there. It'll be a prosecutor who's presenting the case to the grand jury that's been impaneled. If they decline to press charges, there will ultimately be questions. People may wonder whether this grand jury was spoon-fed information that would lead them to come to a conclusion of there being no probable cause for an arrest. But I do believe if they do find that there's criminal charges out of the materials that are presented to them, it would affirm some of those suspicions that so many people have about how this has been handled and all the gaps that appear to be present in this investigation in the aftermath of Nolan's death.
But it's potential that the DA could choose not to go to a grand jury, or even if the grand jury does indict, does the DA have a legal obligation to move forward with the case?
Prosecutors have prosecutorial discretion, so they do not have to go to the grand jury. I believe it's my understanding that they have actually reached a joint agreement that they will present some evidence to the grand jury one way or the other. But the prosecutor can say, well, we decided not to do that. We don't believe there's anything. So they have discretion to pursue charges, not pursue charges, present evidence to a grand jury or not.
Right now, I will say this. Right now, the only thing I can say there is suspicion. But they still have yet to present anything. And listen, man, I'm just outside looking in. There hasn't been nothing they presented. Yeah, it's an awkward situation. You know what I mean? Black kid hanging with all white people. All of a sudden, all the white people don't know where the black kid is at. Yeah. We all get that. But when it comes to going to court, what have you presented that makes this trial worthy or case worthy? Like, what have you presented? They have yet, nothing has been presented yet that's strong or solid. It's just all speculation. The picture in the pool. You got people that were saying, oh, this was the night of. Then you got people saying that wasn't the night of. That was 2 weeks before. That was a week before. Then you got Ben Crump saying that was him arguing over the phone. Now you got him taking it back right here saying, oh, that's what we heard. That was him arguing over the phone. Then you got somebody else saying that wasn't him, that was me arguing. So it's like, what solid facts do you have? Y'all need to find some fast. Because at this point, it's going to seem like you niggas just being media whores and just taking all this clout and attention and using it to your advantage for shit because y'all really ain't presenting nothing. And we want to be with y'all. Trust me. We want to Ben Crump and all. We want to ride with y'all, the black family. But goddamn, man, what do y'all got? Give us something. Y'all got to get that autopsy. Y'all got to get that phone. Give us something, man, to make just one thing that's a solid fact. Like, okay, this is something right here. And this is something we have proof of. That's what they have yet to present. What is something solid to stand on this motherfucker to back up these accusations, man? Because right now, it's like, yeah, the scenario looks crazy. The scenario is crazy. And yeah, the parents want answers. We want answers for sure. This is a highly talked about case. It's all in the media. It's all in the press every goddamn day. Let's get this shit moved. We need some answers, man. Get on it. We need some answers, man. We need answers, and we need them now. Because, God damn it, y'all dragging this out.
How long, typically, timeline-wise, would it take a grand jury typically to reach a decision once a case is presented?
It really depends. There's no telling. It matters how many witnesses will be testifying before the grand jury, the amount of evidence that's going to be presented to them. So it's kind of too soon to speculate as to how long the grand jury would be in pan on what they would hear. But I do think there's a couple of things that show that they may not even be there yet. The incident report, I believe, has not been given to the family yet. So usually those are available within 72 hours of the death or the initial incident. The family has received the incident report. There's still cell phone data that I believe
What? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is going on?
that has to be collected from at least Nolan Wells's phone. So there still may be some time for a grand jury is actually in panel.
I want to go to this next part. I mentioned this earlier. NBC News obtained this audio of what appears to be Nolan's friends calling for help for the boat, right? The boat was apparently having problems. I want you to take a listen to this.
We're sinking. Can y'all please come?
And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's on board.
Tyler, that's significant. That is a significant piece of this puzzle. What does that tell you that there is this reported call about the boat that, by all accounts, Nolan was on at some point? It's having problems. Caller says everybody's on board. Again, we don't know for certain whether Nolan was on board during that call, but again, I think that's significant that this is happening. What does it tell you?
It's very significant. I mean, one, the statements that everybody is on board, and we don't know if Nolan was on board or not at the time, is very significant, given that he did not arrive back home safely when that boat reached dock later on that day. And he allegedly left or wanted to stay behind with a female that he met that day at that island on the lake. So it's very significant. The statements could either be, one, if it's not true, of course, it's a lie that everybody was not on board, or if he was on board at the time this call was made, what happened after that?
And if you're talking about now dispatch getting involved, there being a towing situation, I'm thinking more witnesses, eyewitnesses to what they saw about the boat or who was involved. And by the way, let me go to this part. So CBS News obtained GPS data from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, and it tracks the boat's movement. So I want to walk through that timeline. This is information they say they obtained via records request. So it appears to suggest that this boat, this vessel, left the dock at approximately 9:56 that morning, arrived at Horn Island at 11:14. According to GPS data, the boat then reportedly left Horn Island at 4:31 that afternoon, returned to its original departure dock, then traveled into Fort Bayou at around 5:52 before returning to the dock at 6:06. Later that evening, the boat went into the Fort Bayou boat launch at 7:19, traveled overland, which would suggest that it was possibly towed
Somebody was towing it on land. Probably the owner back to where? What's going on?
A vehicle to the owner's residence. And to just kind of put this into perspective, I believe Ben Crump has claimed that Nolan was last seen on the island at 3 p.m. Tyler, what do you take away from this GPS data?
That if he was last seen on the island at 3 p.m. and they apparently, not only did they leave there, go to another area, then go to dock and get towed, there's a lot that could have transpired between that time, especially putting that in conjunction with the text messages and Snapchat history that was allegedly deleted from his phone or missing from his phone. So there's a lot of time for people to get their stories straight, to talk to maybe counsel or others about what needs to be the narrative when they arrive. Now, I'm speculating to a lot of this because we don't know. There has been no interrogation of these individuals. There's been no official statements that have been issued, but it's clear that there's been a significant period of time between the boat leaving, the last time Nolan was seen, and this boat getting back to its original owner.
And look, it confirms, or it seems to confirm, right, this boat left 4:31. We still have conflicting accounts about whether Nolan chose to stay behind or he was left behind. And this deep GPS data is going to be an important role, it seems. I will say this, this report, this MSDMR report, also indicates that the boat's owner, his mother, and one other individual who was reportedly with Nolan on the day of this incident have cooperated with the investigation.
All right, question. What do we know about Nolan? What kind of person was he? All right, because this is what we sometimes leave out, right? And it always comes to bite us in the ass sometimes. Because I'm telling you right now, if it comes out where stuff start coming out where Nolan didn't like, let's just say, this is the only black kid that hang with all white kids. If Nolan didn't like his own people, that's going to be one. You want to see black people hang it up and turn on you? Let it come find out that Nolan didn't like blacks and he didn't like his own people and he hang with these white people. Boy, black people going to shut this shit down immediately. It's over with. Niggas is done.
Hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
Because what the fuck do we know? But listen, that's not saying this wrong. I'm just devil's advocate right here. Like, what if Nolan was a wild card? What if that was his shit? Like, he was reckless and wild and leave his phone everywhere and he gets drunk. What do we know? Sometimes we don't like to think about that side of things. We just want to see things one-sided sometimes, you know? But you gotta be open. Let's hear the real truth. What do we know about this young man? Is this his character? Is he a person that gets drunk and leave his phone? Is this a person that gets drunk and he's tender and he chase behind girls and he be fucking up and don't want to listen to people when he's drunk or whatever? What do we know? Because we always see things one-sided. You know, we just, this is a young kid. He got mistreated. Why? Because he was black and he was with other white kids and he was the only black person. They killed him. You know what I mean? So it's like, what else do we know though? Like, that's what they're not doing a good job of. Come on, give us something, man.
What does that mean to you that they have cooperated?
It means that they probably have been accessible to law enforcement, that they at least have their contact information, they're being responsive to law enforcement. The question regarding cooperating is to what extent. Now, will they testify between a grand jury? Before a grand jury, or will they have to plead the fifth before a grand jury? Just because they are cooperating does not mean they're all being completely forthcoming. We don't know to what extent their role is, what information that they have. They could be cooperating through counsel. Which is nothing wrong with cooperating through counsel. But I think it at least shows that they aren't stonewalling the police and they're being accessible.
So let me go on to this other major development from this week's press conference. The family is now going to be allowed to inspect Nolan's phone alongside investigators. There's going to be this mutual inspection where both sides will see the contents at the same time. Tyler, is that unusual? Let's first start there.
That's highly unusual. It's highly unusual that a victim's family, along with their attorney, would be allowed to participate with law enforcement in the inspection of a cell phone data that is really the crux, one of the crucial pieces of evidence with this case. I don't think that would have happened without a lot of the chatter going on around the country about how this investigation has transpired, and it shows there's some distrust between the family and law enforcement here. And there, from my understanding, there has been not the best communication with the DA and law enforcement and the family. So the concession to allowing a joint inspection, I think, is an attempt from the government or the state here to try to regain some of that trust with the victim's family.
And I thought it was also unusual, if the reporting is true and if this is accurate, that the family has been in possession of this phone and hasn't or turned it over to law enforcement yet. I mean, maybe that's not true, but this is what the reporting seems to suggest. I would, again, imagine that's a little unusual, but also, how does this work? How does a mutual inspection work exactly?
So there should be some forensic experts regarding data extraction present with the state, and also there will likely be an independent one that Mr. Crump's office has present with the DA at the same time. So that way, everybody can see it at the same time, whether all data is being extracted, make sure nothing's being left behind, because the big issue here is that the early announcement of no foul play, the evidence of the cell phone that the family received, I believe, a couple of days after Nolan went missing, or the night of, I can't recall the exact time, and then the missing of text messages and Snapchat data. And by allowing joint experts or joint data extraction at the same time, it's going to help the family feel comfortable knowing that all data is being looked at, is not being piecemeal. Because oftentimes I've seen cases where there's been a cell phone data that's been extracted and the state says, oh, well, that's other information deleted, we can't get it. But that's not normal. When a forensic expert can see what's been deleted, what's been altered in the data.
Does this potentially present a legal evidentiary issue? If you have multiple hands on the phone, does that contaminate the evidence in some way? If there is a case being presented against a defendant, couldn't a defense attorney really hone in on that and say, look, I mean, you have to exclude this evidence. There's a chain of custody issue. Or do you say, look, digital evidence is different. It's not like a piece of clothing, right? I mean, talk to me about that.
The defense attorney may, depending on what happens here, let's say there are criminal charges and they are ones of homicide or something that's very serious or substantial, and this case goes to trial, the defense attorney would jump on that and likely try to have that data excluded. If anything, the chain of custody is going to have to reference the mutual presence of the victim being there, the victim's attorney being there along with their own experts, and the jury should be allowed to hear that, and they can weigh that evidence how they see sufficient. But if it's not excluded, it will certainly be an issue at a criminal trial that could weigh to whether the jury believes it's solid evidence, or maybe it could have been influenced by the presence of the family. But I do believe in the family in how they're addressing this with their own independent investigation, which I believe has even led to this the grand jury possibly being impaneled. None of that would have happened without the efforts that they've done. And I think it's appropriate for there to be a joint extraction for this circumstance.
Hey, where the fuck is Al Sharpton? That nigga Al Sharpton was there for the first week in every video. That nigga ain't there no more. Al Sharpton said, look, I'm gone. You niggas ain't paying me. I'm out of here. I done ran up this shit. I done gave my cosign. Nigga, we ain't got shit. I'm gone, man. I'm out of this motherfucker. But listen, y'all. Find something, man. Find something. This could be like the David case, y'all, where they was acting like, you remember we thought the David case didn't have shit? We like, damn, dog, it's pretty obvious he did the shit. And then it was, 6 months went by? And then they came out. And then once they went and presented everything what they had a slew of shit. So maybe it could be they just don't want to tell us yet. Maybe they do have shit. They just don't want to spoil it. That's where TMZ got to kick in. TMZ had the nigga on the David case, their own personal private detective. He was out there finding all kind of shit and exposing what LAPD had. LAPD was coming out like, no, we don't. We don't got that, even though they had it. No, we don't. That's what they need to do right here. Let's find out what the fuck they really got. Because right now, I feel like we still at square one. It's the same, like you can't put a finger on nothing yet. It's just speculations. And then it's like, it ain't confirmed speculations. Because what happened to the whole, we saw them cleaning the boat at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. But now, come to find out, the boat wasn't even docked. It was gone. It was at the owner's house. We saw them out there at the dock cleaning it at 3, 4 in the morning. You know what I mean? So it's like all these stories is just be like, he say, she say right now. And yeah, man, I feel like let's just wait till we get some goddamn information. Golly, y'all making all these damn videos and we sit here watching these motherfuckers and y'all ain't giving us no goddamn updates, man.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
We need something solid, something concrete, man. Get it together, man. Figure that out. And rest in peace to Nolan Wells, man. Hopefully he gets some justice if he was done wrong, if he was mistreated by these kids and his family. May his family get justice, man. But if they come out, if it comes out that they're telling the truth, that's going to be a wild one. Like, oh, shit, they wasn't lying. That would be crazy. But I want to go with, I'm 70% mistreated that something fishy is going on because it's fishy as fuck. I'm with the 70% right now. Until they come with something a little solid, it'll bump me up. But I'm 70 right now that something happened with that young man. But let me know what y'all think, man. I'm going to give y'all 2 seconds, smash a like. And as always, get ready for the next reaction.